Before we begin the diaphragm release, we need to have done some good release work on the rest of the hara. So we will want to have done a little bit of general warming up. We'll go through this quite quickly using our little warming routine. And the rest of it, and gone into the circular technique. So before I do the diaphragm release, I'm actually going to just take 2 or 3 minutes to do a little bit of general hara release. Again, it's a little bit of revision. So 3 circles. The first circle is about a fist distance from the navel, and that spirals out into the second circle, which is about a hand's length distance. You can do this, it's very nice to do this with a supporting, stabilising hand, or you can do it without. And sometimes, particularly if someone has a big hara, I might well use both hands on top of each other. In essence, this is no different from when we do circular technique and search and rescue on any other part of the body. It's just that the kori will feel subtler and softer because the hara is by nature a soft place. So we need to be that little bit more sensitive to sense where the depth barriers are and where the linear barriers are. And the third line, the third circle, is going to take us around the rim of the hara. And as we were doing, so one of the things you can do where you find, particularly where you find a bit of gas or solid matter, is you can just vibrate it or shake it and then carry on. When you do circular technique with someone with a very, very soft, empty hara, it may feel like you're not doing anything. It kind of just almost feels like you're trying to circle in blancmange, but it's still worth, you'll still be getting a lot of benefit in doing it. And remember what I said, that fat is a form of protective connective tissue. The awareness of sort of fat layers and fatty deposits is still something that you want to work with this technique. Where the hara is really, really empty, a very, very thin abdominal wall, and so you go through and you virtually feel nothing but the spine or even the couch, then again using circular technique very smoothly and softly, because it encourages, as you can see with the reddening of Rob's skin, it encourages microcirculation. It's going to be helping to nourish the hara wall, and helping to activate it. But obviously they're going to have to do some actual exercise to really strengthen the muscles if they're very, very weak and deficient. And from there we'll go into the deeper pressure, and now we're thinking of the grid of 9 squares and working around the 9 squares using, say, a sort of fingertip version of racket goes down the whole, with the option in any area where we sense a stronger sense of restriction, that we can then explore with 8-directional movement. And taking that into any of the fascial release techniques, yin or yang unwinding, a simple tissue stretch, or simply waiting out the tension. And if there's time, we might go around once, then go back to the most restricted square and work that again, and then maybe go around again, but I'm just going to do it the once for now, because we're just preparing the way for the diaphragm release. We can also come to the central square and feeling around the rim of the navel, around the scar tissue, feel for the most restricted or hardest area, and again we can go in with simple direct pressure and wait out the tension, or we can add a fascial stretch, unwinding. If you sense the aorta, just glide to one side of it so you don't give direct pressure to the aorta. And intersperse this very deep work with bits of general work. The thing I always come back to is the wave. Okay, we're now ready to move into the new material, which is the diaphragm release. And what I like to do to lead into this is to simply take the wave up, so we begin to mobilize the lower part of the rib cage. This is really just a linking and sensing technique. We can then, by way of preparation for the release, we can do search and rescue, going along the line of the bottom ribs. You've got a lot of rectus attachment points on the bottom of the sternum of the lower ribs here, and you will feel as you work with very small circles over the lower ribs, you'll feel lots of little strands of tissue. And there can be a lot of cori in this area. It's not big, knotty, ropey cori like you get in the back of someone's neck or top of their shoulders. You're feeling for little tiny strands and slithers of gristle, and just very gently working them. And take that round well round onto the sides, and also do more search and rescue following just inferior to the line of the lower ribs. Here you're trying to infiltrate your fingers like a botched SAS mission under the lower ribs. And again, although the tissue here is soft, you can often feel resistance, feel little strands of cori. But we're just wanting to ease this area a little bit. And once we've got this feeling that we've got a little bit of the tissue loosened, we can add a fascial stretch between the two hands. One hand just above the costal margin, one hand just below. We can just draw the tissue apart. And we can do any of our fascial things here. We can wait out the tension. We can begin to move into an unwinding kind of pattern. We feel that's beginning to loosen. We can do exactly the same thing on the other side. I often find that there are ashy points, very significantly tender ashy points on these muscular attachments on the lower ribs that may well be active trigger points, and very often they will reflect what's going on in the underlying organs. So if there is a stomach pathology or a liver or gallbladder pathology, these points may well be very tender. They can also, I think, refer or reflect into the organs. So if there's tension here, it will often actually lead to organ malfunction. So again, doing the same thing just below the costal margin, just working it in the area free. And when it's more free, again, we can apply simple